Hey everybody, this is going to be showing you how to use Loki and Grafana with a Django application running on Docker with Docker Compose on Amazon AWS EC2, which is a very common use case. However, the documentation for Grafana I find pretty lacking in examples and real world examples, and there's a million things that made this process take what I thought was going to be a couple hours and ended up taking a day and a half. So hopefully I can save you a little bit of time and headaches. So to start with the logging from Django, make sure to set up your logging settings here. So all this will need to go to the standard out. So that is on the Django side. And then in here, you'll have your Docker Compose thing. And to explain how to do this, basically you have to understand what all of these words mean. So we have Grafana, we have Loki, we have Alloy, as well as this is my application. You can download it on iOS or Apple if you want. So in order to understand this, so Grafana is the graphical user interface, the thing that you can visualize your logs with. That's what Grafana is. The second part of the stack is Loki, which is actually the brains of the operation. This is what's basically doing all the magic behind the scenes of doing the log stuff. And then Alloy is the trickiest piece because Alloy was released I think 8 months ago. So there's not very much documentation, not very many like Stack Overflow answers on it. So understanding how this works is very challenging, and ChatGPT will lie to you because it doesn't understand what Alloy is, and I didn't either. So basically, you'll have 4 containers running on your EC2 instance if you want to get Grafana going. There's a million different ways to basically spin up Grafana, Alloy, all this. But this is how I did it, and this is what worked for me. So to dig into this, so probably the most challenging piece, I was able to pull from the tutorial basically some dummy settings, and I don't even understand what some of this means. But you pull Alloy, Loki, and Grafana in there, and you'll need 2 other files. So the Loki config, just copy paste from the tutorial, or you can basically paste in what I have here. I didn't change anything for that. So then also your Alloy config, which will be in here. So to explain how this is actually working. So Alloy takes your stuff from somewhere, takes your logs from somewhere and tosses it, throws it over to Loki where it parses it. And then Grafana, you can go in and log in and look at what you're seeing. So the problem is understanding how Alloy is actually doing that. So in my case, how I set it up is Alloy is actually going to read all of the logs from all of the Docker containers that are living on my EC2 instance, which is why you'll see this variable run docker.sock thing in the volume. Apparently, this is a security risk for some things, but I really don't care. If you're a security expert, this might be really stupid, but this is what worked for me. So you need to toss that in as a volume here. So then what you'll see is we have this alloy-config file. This is written in this Alloy language, which I do not understand, and there's not great documentation on. There might be more documentation that I just haven't found. However, this is the magic that was very hard to figure out how to do. So you're going to use this Unix socket, and basically, since we tossed it over as a volume here, it will be able to access it in this Alloy container. So then you use discovery docker to set that as the host. And then down here, basically, Loki, you're setting Loki as a source. So now Alloy is sending it over to Loki, and you're using that same host. You're using the targets here. I do not know why you have to redefine it twice, but you do. And then you say, okay, let's forward it over and send it to Loki at this address. It's not localhost, it's Loki 3100. I don't know why. And then the critical piece that is not very well explained is these relabel rules, which I found somebody copy pasted from someone. Basically, to organize them when you're actually in Grafana looking at stuff, it makes it a lot easier to find things. And in the documentation, you can find, okay, so the container name, you can set these source labels and basically remap them. So you're not reading that, you're just reading container. And you can do some of these other ones as well. So basically, this sets up Alloy, so it's sending over to Loki. Now, Over here, so then Loki, we have this all defined. I didn't really have to change that too much. And then when we get over to Grafana, there's one very critical piece, which is that with Grafana, if you don't set a persistent volume in Docker, once you spin down the Docker container and push it back up again, you'll lose everything in there, all your dashboards, all whatever. So you will have to run a command to Docker create volume or whatever. You can find it very easily. And then you will have to put it here as well as down here at the root of your Docker compose file. So with those two things, you'll be able to get Grafana. And one more thing that they don't explain very well, because I'm a novice at all of this, in order to access Grafana, there's actually something really cool you can do, which is when you SSH into your EC2 instance, presuming you know how to do that, you can basically port over the local host, since we defined basically, okay, Grafana is going to be running on port 3000. You can port it over such that when you SSH into it, you can run this specific command such that you can access the local host of the EC2 instance on your local machine, which is really cool. So what does it actually look like? So you run that and you'll have that in an SSH terminal running, which I currently have, meaning I'm able to access it. So then you'll get into something like this, and I'll show you what you have to do. When you come in first, it'll be in dark mode. I changed to light mode. But then you'll want to come over to data sources, because if you don't, it'll have blank here and it'll say all this errors and whatnot. Basically, what you have to do is data source, you'll scroll down, you'll select Loki. And then it's very simple. You put in this Loki port 3100, save that. And then once you go over to logs, you'll see we have mapped everything so that we have all of our different containers. It should be having 4 right now. I don't know why, but for right now we have 3. And then all our logs are here, and that is all you have to do. And you'll spin up, and that will be after you have Docker Compose up on everything. So those were all the things that took me forever to figure out. Hopefully that saves you a little bit of time. Thanks.